Not there. All right, so we are live. And yeah, back again. I think today is a very special Thursday live for us because I have the pleasure of hosting Adam. And I can't believe it because when I was on the across the pond a few months back, I wouldn't believe that I'll have the beautiful opportunity to host him back and return the favor. So super excited to have Adam here. Thank you audience also for joining us. I see folks streaming into the live stream already. And for all of you who don't know, I don't know who you are. If you've never heard about Adam, if you're in the Shopify ecosystem e-commerce, I'm sure you've already come across his podcast. Adam and his team host Across the Pond, which is a very popular e-commerce podcast. And Adam Pearce is the co-founder and CEO at Blend Commerce. It's the e-commerce customer experience agency, I'd say. And so far, they've helped Adam and his team. They've helped more than 200 Shopify teams drive exceptional shopping experiences tailored for growth and revenue, right? So welcome, Adam. So excited to host you today.
No, thank you, Kaz, and thank you for the intro. Appreciate it.
Right. And, like everybody knows about you, and we've already have questions streaming in from our audience. So we'll just quickly dive in. CX and customer experience is such a critical lever for brands. And you work with a ton of D2C brands, optimize their customer journeys. I think a quick 30-second, what's your take on CX for e-commerce? Like what's that, 30-second pitch of why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I think about customer experience, what I'm basically saying is, how do your visitors to your site feel before they get to the site, when they're on the site, when they're in the process of buying, how they're feeling after they've bought, and then in the long term. So it's just really, I think customer experience is about saying, look, what are the things that are going through the minds of our customers when they're on site and when they're also not on site, the marketing that we communicate to them. Yeah. Are they feeling positive? Are they feeling negative? Are they feeling different? We just need to give different signs and signals to them to make their life easier. And that, in essence, is how I see CX. It's purely that of how are they feeling? What do they need? Giving them an easier option to shop.
Yeah, and that really encapsulates it in such a short, sentence. And CX is super important. I think even more important in the second half of the year, right? Like I've heard brands tell me, Adam, that almost like 70-80% of their target for the year, they're making it in this time from July, August till December. And keeping that in mind, today we want to dive with you into the world of running a great sale and what does it mean in terms of CX? For a brand, of course, like when you're running a sale, it's not about great experience, as you said, just within the sale, right? Within the sale days, but it's also your sale pre-buzz, your post-sale experience, all have to kind of come together to drive a great win, right? So let's kind of like break it down into pre-sale, during sale, post-sale buzz, and before a sale, right? What is the stock checklist that brands have to keep in mind before they even get into starting a sale?
Yeah, so in terms of beforehand, I think there's two main things. The first one is that I think a lot of DTC brands are guilty of is that their navigation and their search functionality is pretty poor. And what I mean is that a lot of the time when you look at a standard Shopify store, there'll be a navigation that's there and there will be a ton of options. Now, the problem with that is that when you come to that site, the average consumer is going to go, well, I don't know. I've never seen these guys before. I'm not kind of sure what I'm looking for. And then what happens is they go, okay, well, maybe use the search. Now, a lot of the time when people have search features on Shopify stores, they will have the fairly standard Shopify search tool. It's not good enough, plain and simple. What happens with search is that people will spell incorrectly. They will be typing a word that is kind of a colloquialism that doesn't actually mean the product. And all that happens, people get frustrated. So my number one tip in terms of that pre-sale perspective is make sure that your navigation is simple and you're focusing on the need of the customer. So rather than coming on the route of, shirts by color, maybe what you're doing is having shirts by color, shirts by fit, shirts by event, because those are the things that it's the job to be done that product's for. And then secondly, with that search item, just make sure that you invest in a more advanced one so that people can make spelling mistakes, people can write colloquialisms, and also that will learn over time and just make that experience a heck of a lot better. So that's definitely my first tip on that. I think the other one as well is, and we think about obviously all of the stuff that we've been talking about for months, iOS, Google cookies, acquisition costs, all this stuff. I'm going to go into it again because probably everyone is bored to tears we're talking about it. But I think the point is, when we got people on site, there is an expectation now, I think, that happened over COVID, is that brands are going to do more for a customer and make it easier to shop. And part of that is also about making sure that they are going to be directed to products that mean something to them. And one of the really smart ways that a lot of brands have done this is by using an on-site quiz. And the way this, is beneficial is twofold. One is that if you have a product range that is a little bit confusing to a customer, you can direct them to the right kind of product. And I'll give you an example of this. So we work with a condiments brand. So they sell sauces, they sell basting sauces, all kinds of stuff. But the thing is with those guys is they sell to people following a paleo diet, a carnivore diet. In some instances, you have people who are just kind of general interested in good food. And what happened is that when you go to that site, you're going to say, well, I'm not really sure which these products I want. So we put a little call to action button below the main navigation that said, not sure what you need, take our quiz. And when you click on that, it just asks them 5 or 6 simple questions. With that, then it gives them then a product recommendation of what they need. But equally, all of that data that's been collected in the quiz then shoots over to Klaviyo and actually creates these custom profile properties. So there's twofold here. Yes, we're talking about kind of before the sale in that we're directing people to the right place, but quizzes convert very highly. So on average, between 20 and 30% conversion rate when someone completes it. And then secondly, the people that don't buy within the quiz, because you're using data from that quiz that is personal to what they need and what they want, the welcome flow also then converts at a much higher rate. So, if people are considering using one, I would say from a pre-sale perspective, that's definitely something to look at.
Yeah. And so once, making sure navigation smart enough, it's not like a dumb navigation, right? I've also heard folks, another recommendation that I've heard from some experts is that, hey, also reuse some of your intelligence from the reviews that folks are dropping, your customers are dropping, to kind of refine your search navigation and having adjacencies covered, like spelling mistakes and stuff like that. I totally agree with you. The second, I love that, is, don't leave it to your customer to think of what they want, but help them by asking the right questions, a quick quiz or something that engages them too. And that's first party data. You're directly connecting to your customer. You're collecting that information to actually help them over time too. So it's not just limited to that interaction and that session, but also something that continues over time. Another thing, double clicking on, on the same thread of how do you engage your customers. I've also seen that a lot of times teams are driving, traffic to the store, through ads, through social media, and there's this big disconnect in storytelling, right? Like you're talking about something in your ad. I expect a certain story and a aesthetic and an experience, to be honest, and then suddenly there I am, bang on a very functional product details page, right? Like it's got your pictures, yes, but then bang, size and fitting and whatnot, and there's this it doesn't include my brand ethos, my story, social proof. So what would be your recommendations to, especially during sales when you're driving so much traffic, directly to probably your PDPs too. You can't afford not to. What would be your recommendations in something as crucial as that?
Yeah, super simple this one. So after you finish watching the live stream, go to your homepage, go to your About Us page, and go to your collections page. What you will see on there is lots of golden information that you need to bring onto your product page. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world when you see a brand that has a beautiful homepage that tells us about guarantees that they have, reviews that they've got, listings in brick and mortar stores, any kind of environmental certifications that they've got, all of that stuff that tends to live on a homepage or About Us page or collections page needs to come onto that product page. Because like you say, Kaz, people are directing product to that product details page. So that essentially now needs to represent your whole business on that one page. It doesn't matter, that obviously there's a lot of information. You can just, if there's text information, make it visual, make some iconography, have an image, do that instead, because those are the kind of the trust factors that we used to rely on people coming through the homepage, that now it's all about that product page. That is got to be the simple thing, is people still do very much limit that information to other parts of the site, because I think traditionally that's where it sits. Scrap that, get it on that product page.
Yeah, so it's almost like treating every product page or collection page or home page as that single interaction, as a representative of your brand, right?
Absolutely. I mean, people talk a lot about long lead sales pages. You'll see it when people, for example, sell courses. I guess it's the same sort of mentality there, with a long lead sales page. If Gary Vee is trying to get you into buying one of his courses, you're going to have this really long page that you're scrolling with all these different bits of information. Yeah. It's kind of the same situation with a product page now. You've got to do something similar where you're talking them through that journey. You're boosting them up with obviously your social proof and your trust to then get into the sale. Just going, well, hey, we sell sneakers and choose your size and your color. Yeah. Yawn, who cares? They care about the background of the brand, what materials that go into it, the production process, all the stuff from the homepage, the About Us page. Get that into the product page.
Yeah, super. I love that. And then, the final part, like I'm on the product page, I'm clicking and I'm adding to cart. What are some of the hygienes pre-sale to really take care of in your checkout process?
Yeah, I think one of the things, that still hasn't been done very well by quite a few merchants is making sure that you customize your checkout as much as possible. Now, with the new functionality in Shopify, it's a lot easier to do than it was before. But even those simple things of making sure that on your checkout, you've got your company logo, your font, and your colors. Because the thing is with that, when you use the standard, for example, Shopify setup, it's very gray, it's very plain, and it almost looks like you've been taken off somewhere else. And I was talking about this on a podcast the other day. If any of you ever shop with a brand that is on, say, for example, WordPress, and then they get WorldPay to complete the transaction, you'll probably remember the process. You click pay, it then opens up a new window for WorldPay, and you're then essentially doing a WorldPay. That's not a great customer experience situation, because you're going, well, is this legit? If I don't know who WorldPay are, you might not do, or where is it going? Then you go back to the site. It's very convoluted. So if you can just make that indication of, right, you are still shopping with me, you're still shopping with me, you shop with me, done, that's got to be the way to go with it. And then after that, then it's all about diving into that post-purchase process.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've got pre-sale kind of like covered to an extent. I mean, there's a lot more, but with respecting the time, and we got to cover the rest of the sale flow. Now we've done all these hygiene, and it's sale day, right? What are some of these top blockers that you see? You've done a bunch of that in your work. What could be a good checklist to kind of watch out for as my sales running?
So I think the other thing is from having a sale is there's kind of things here. One is, I would say, always start with the data, because there's nothing more frustrating, I think, when you get a blanket discount sent through, particularly over kind of peak period, be it Black Friday, Cyber Monday. People, if you are a loyal customer, I define a loyal customer that's someone has purchased from you more than 4 times. That's kind of the way that we think about it internally. Now, if you know that you're getting a generic email that everyone else has, and you're not indicated that this is unique to you, that straight away is as a block, because people who are committed to those brands and loyal to them want to see that they're getting some level of extra. And simple ways to do that is, the pre-sale email, getting access, 12 hours, an hour before everyone else does. Equally, with those customers who have potential, i.e. they haven't purchased from you yet, they're engaging with your emails, have been on site, you can send a separate one to those guys that is going to give them maybe a slightly higher discount to the sale price on there to bring them in as that first time customer, which will hopefully then propel them to being a longer term. So I think, start with that data and make it so that different groups get different versions of the sale, I think is the first one.
Yeah.
The second thing I think as well is that think about inventory. Over the years, that we've been working, with e-com brands, unfortunately, look, if you think about sales, think about brick and mortar stores, why did people used to do summer sales or Christmas sales? It was to get rid of stock that they no longer needed. Unfortunately, what's happened, I think, in e-commerce, people have gone, look, we need to do a sale because Black Friday, Cyber Monday is such a good opportunity. And then all that happens is you end up actually discounting products that have poor margin, or you end up offering a product you've got low inventory of and push it too much. And it just ends up, with a whole bunch of frustrated customers. So take the inventory and the margin first, assess that, and then decide what you're going to do. Don't just go for a blanket, look, 10% of everything, because the bigger companies where their margins maybe are a little bit more consistent, great. But, I know for sure that a lot of companies, their margins, on some products can be 5% and other products can be 75%, particularly, kind of fast moving consumer goods. So plan it around that, opposed to just saying, right, we need to bring revenue in. I'm not going to use that kind of cliche term about revenue and profit, but ultimately, that's what we're going to think about.
Yeah. It's interesting you spoke about inventory, because that was actually one of the questions from Soya, and you've already covered that. So I hope, Soya, you're taking notes. And do you think another element of kind of planning your sale or executing your sale and giving a great experience is also this, like, how do you bundle your products and give like the optimal, I would say, combo or kit or whatever you call it, or regime in beauty, or just a bundle? Like, how should brands think about it?
Yeah, so I think with that, ultimately with the sale opportunity, again, think about it from different customer groups' perspective. Now, for those loyal customers who maybe have purchased from you 4, 5, 6 times, the bundle that they buy should be more about, okay, saying, right, how can we maximize the margin for that group? The other side of it, though, is for those customers who we would say, potentials, is that thinking about how can those bundles then lead on to the next sale. So, for example, if you take an apparel company, what you might be doing, so a men's apparel company, what you might do is be offering a bundle, which is, a jacket, a shirt, and then maybe a tie. So that's your first bundle that you're gonna pitch to them. But what that then makes a great opportunity to do is that if they get that at that discounted rate, in then a week or two's time, you then follow it then with the pants, with the shoes, and then go from there. So use that bundle essentially as the kind of the gateway to then get people in. I mean, it's very much like the kind of the games console world. Games console companies, what they do is the same thing. They make the actual console as cheap as they possibly can. People have got the console. Then the price of the games is very, very expensive. So you're doing the same thing. You're locking them in with the fact they've got that first part of the outfit. And then what you're saying is you make the margin on the other products they can go to buy. So thinking about with your product offering, what can you do to do that lock-in process where you give them enough stuff that's going to then make them go to the next, the next, the next.
Yeah. So just to round it up, think about personalizing your sale for your different users, right? It's not like just a single similar experience or discounts for everybody. Second, which is super important, is think about your inventory, think about the margins, think about actually what kind of products you should be putting on sale. And the third, I love that, is use bundling not just as a sales strategy, but as a continual kind of like a continued relationship with your customer for upsells or cross-sells in future too, and as the sale ends. So use bundling as also upsell and cross-sell strategy. Love that, right? So now we planned a sale, we are running our sale, and it's the post-sale experience. And a lot of times you get so disappointed as consumers. I've been there. There's this like kind of like regret that starts setting in. Sometimes I've splurged too much, online or offline, I don't think it matters. So how do you now optimize this post-sale experience to actually reduce returns and also make me feel good about what I did, not like guilty?
Absolutely. I mean, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think we're all guilty in business, aren't we? Whether you are a product company or a service company like you and I, like for you and I, if we sign a client, we go, yeah, we signed a client, great. And immediately you forget that for our clients, and like you guys who are selling, that celebration for you is actually just the start of the journey for that customer. And we spend so much time in that first part, we forget the latter. So with the post-purchase piece, it doesn't really matter whether it's in sale time or in not sale time. What you've got to think about is, like I said at the start there, those emotions and experiences your customers are going through. So let's kind of take an example. Let's imagine that we are a chocolate brand that has decided Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that we're going to sell a bundle of 4 of our chocolate bars, which essentially works out you buy 3, you get 1 free. Now, in that situation, what's going to happen is, if it's a customer who's never bought from you before, they're going to go, maybe that was a bit expensive. I wonder when it's going to get to me for. Will it taste any good? So all these questions go through their mind. So straight away, you can actually start to dispel those problems. First of all, you want an email going out to them, which is telling them their order is successful and when they can expect to get it delivered by. It's great. We know we've allayed that fear that it's going to get there.
Yeah.
Secondly, we need the thank you. Thank you so much. Here's a bit of our brand story. Really great to have you as a customer. And then what we also then need is that if you can then get shipping notifications when it's in delivery, just to let you know, guys, your chocolate is on your way to you. It's just small messages, but it's trying to alleviate those fears that are in their mind before they get it. Now, at that point, then we're at the point where we're saying, well, actually, look, the product's arrived. We get the notification internally. We send an email saying, hey, it looks like it's arrived. Hope everything's okay. So from a customer service point of view, if there are any problems, ping back. But then think about your product. Now with chocolate, I don't know if anyone's like me. If I get chocolate through the mail, I'm opening up and I'm taking a bite. Equally, if I buy a shirt or a pair of sneakers, I'm putting them on right down there because I want to see if they fit. So if you know that, you can then send an email within, say, 12 hours of delivery saying, how was the first bite? How do they fit? Did you like your shirt? So again, it's if there are any potential problems, nip it in the bud quickly. And then what you can then do is basically then ease off a little bit. So the next thing is, for example, if it's a variety pack, you maybe calculate, well, look, variety pack, it takes people a week to eat it. You send an email a week later saying, hey, how did you enjoy the variety pack? Which was your favorite flavor? Get some interaction going back with you. And then following on from that, you can then go into the, right, would you recommend this to your friends? Here's some other products. Don't go straight and do that thing that a lot of people do is buy the product. Thank you for buying. Will you review us? Because if you're doing that, customers are just going to be like, well, no, because I'm not just going to review you straight away within, before I've even got the product. But it happens time and time again. So just think about that post-purchase flow in terms of email. And also if you're using SMS, extend it out, think about the moments that your customer is going to go through.
Yeah. And as you were, describing these different moments, there's a question that's streaming in, is that is there some way as a brand I can use the packaging or, whatever I have actually shipped to my customer as a moment too, like that moment of unboxing? Barry asked that question. Any comments on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a great company called pennyblack.io. And what Penny Black do is that you can actually have a personalized insert within your packaging, as well as actually print inside of the boxes. So if, for example, you have data on a customer, let's say, for example, it's someone who has previously bought, say 2 pairs of sneakers from you before, you could have printed inside of that, hi, Adam, hope you enjoy your third pair from us. There's moments like that you can take advantage of, that, cost very little, but it's that little tweak of like, right, they see me, they hear me, they're grateful for the fact that I've gone and purchased from them again. So yes, certainly bringing that packaging into it is a great move.
Yeah, and it almost gives like a very unboxing kind of an experience. You feel like you're getting a Christmas present and you're opening it. It's like Christmas morning. Awesome. And so we've covered the 3 phases of sale. And I have a kind of long term, right? How do you now use these experiences that you've had? We've kind of touched upon that a little bit, but maybe expanding out a bit more. How do you amplify your whole B2C customer experience and use that for loyalty and long-term growth?
I mean, I think with the data that you get back in terms of how your customers are responding, I think there's 2 things that a lot of smart brands are doing now. The first one is they're using net promoter scores at the end of the purchase process, because that can indicate a lot on the actual process of buying, first of all. But then also following on from that, once they've received the product out for a while, you've got that post-purchase side. So there's 2 things you can do with that information. One is you can go back and you can fix, the particular problems that people are coming up with. But secondly, you can take it a step further and say, well, look, if we look at something called RFM segments, so recency, frequency, and monetary, what you can do is you can look at the different components of your customers. And if you map that to the net promoter scores that people have got, you can then go out and find the right kind of customers. So rather than actually, kind of saying, right, in terms of our acquisition to feed our funnel, we're going to go based on, the fact that, well, it's a male living in this place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You look at it from those RFN segments, and then you go out and do lookalike audiences based on those RFN segments. So, if you've got a group of people who have a high recency, a high frequency, but a low monetary, you are going to treat those ads and those lookalike audiences in terms of filling your funnel differently to people with a different RFM score. So thinking about it in that way, when you focus on CLV, it just means that you become more efficient in your acquisition rather than kind of scattergun that, we've all got away with it the past few years. We could, because traffic was cheap. Now it ain't. We need to be a bit smarter. So that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I love that. It's no longer throwing spaghetti on the wall.
Unfortunately not. I wish it was, because it would make our lives easier, wouldn't it? But
absolutely. Before we close, thank you so much, Adam. There's been so many interesting nuggets. It felt like a very, very short conversation. I wish we could stretch it, but before we leave, we can't leave without asking you the question about iOS and cookies, right? Like, you brought that up in the beginning. We can't close without that. So the whole ability to store, use data, it's changed so much in this last year, right? And you can't really rely on Facebook, Google Ads, or all of that anymore. Any advice for mid-stage, kind of early stage to mid-stage startups, D2C brands, as they are on their journey to scale? Now, how do you build the best zero-party data kind of system and use that for your long-term CLV growth?
So I think if you are a brand that, say, has an existing list, if you start there, it's unlikely that you will have much more data on it if you haven't been using zero first party data, apart from if they've been in your store and if they purchased from you. Now that's kind of okay, but what you could do is use 2 things. One would be to do an in-email survey to your existing customers that are there. So let's say, for example, you've got a list of 500 people. What you can do is in Klaviyo or whatever email platform you're using, do an in-email survey that might ask them, okay, in terms of the options below, which best describes your lifestyle? Something simple like that. Now, with that information, you can then use that to personalize the rest of the flows and the campaigns that you're going to do. So let's say, for example, you're a shoe company and you ask that question, describes your lifestyle. One is, I work in office. One is I work outdoors. The other one is that I am retired, for example. That might be 3 different options. Off the back of those, you can then map different products to those people in terms of the campaigns to make sure you are then trying to show them something more similar. If you can, use a quiz. Send the quiz to your existing customers and say, hey, we love to be able to give you better recommendations of our products. Please fill this in for us. When we do that, usually get about 20-25% completion from your list. So yeah, you're not going to meet everyone, but you're going to get some data. And then the final thing on that is that, if you have time to do this, the most valuable thing you can do is actually go in there and do calls with your clients. I would say if you can have, basically the way that we would tend to do this is we would offer that person in exchange for 45 minutes of their time, a $50 or £50 gift card.
Yeah.
The amount of information that you can get about perception of your brand, your products, your on-site experience in that with 5 interviews is mind-blowing. So for £250, $250, you compare that with sticking that into Facebook ads, it's a no-brainer. I think the other thing is, if you haven't got a list already, then making sure that your sign-up process on site is fun and also gives you the opportunity to get more data. Now, I won't talk about quizzes again because I sound like a bit of a stuck record. One good option. More simple is what you can do is do multi-stage pop-ups. So what these are is essentially you can just ask a couple of questions in this multi-stage pop-up. For example, pet brands. Ask them for the name of their dog, ask them for the breed, ask them how many times they walk it, and then ask them for email address. 3 or 4 pieces of really critical data. Personalize the email to them. You can address it to them and their dog. You can give them different types of products depending on the dog that they've got. There is so much you can do there. Even if you've got very little traffic, just make it so that when you get people to actually interact with it, there's something fun or interesting to do. And then secondly, you can pull that data out of it and make it a better experience for them.
Yeah. Wow. Great examples and ideas. In fact, it's not just for, I think, e-commerce brands, but even as SaaS businesses, these are ideas we can utilize and it just works. Thank you so much, Adam. We made you stay a little bit over our promised time, but it's all for the good of the community. So thank you so much. And we really want to bring you back again. So we'll, so that our audience, gets to interact with you again. And I hope audience, you had a great time. I know a bunch of new questions again coming in. We'll send it to Adam and get him to answer it later. But if you want to reach out to Adam, please, he's on LinkedIn. He has a great content stream on LinkedIn too. But Adam, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, sure. So just if I say LinkedIn is great, Adam Pearce, P-A-R-C-E. If you want to have a little look at the kind of things we do at Blend, it's just blendcommerce.com.
Yeah, and Adam's easy to find because you have a fire emoji before his name on LinkedIn. So you're getting the right person, right?
That's me.
Thank you so much. And that closes our live stream today. Thanks everybody for joining in.